Isaiah said, to the law and the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, the law and the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because the light is not in them. If they speak not according to the law and the testimony, it's because the light is not in them. How do you reconcile this? You are no longer under the law, but under grace, which means you'll never speak of the law again. You'll never testify of the wonders, the joy, the gladness, the wonders, the ecstasy of his law. You'll never, ever, ever get to testify of that. I want to remind you also that God himself said the Torah is his will. It's his instructions. Come on, his instructions. Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name, your will, your law, your commandments. Your law, your commandments be done on earth as it is in heaven. Do those words sound even remotely familiar? Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. I fail to understand what is so difficult here. I fail to understand the difficulty of the choice. Every Christian I know, whether they're aware of it, cognizant of it or not, is in the valley of decision. Is in the valley of decision. He who says, I know him, but does not keep his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. Ain't no way that person can ever do the will of God, because obey my voice and keep my commandments is his will. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who keeps the commandments of my God. In that day, many will say to me, but Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not cast out devils in your name? Did we not do mighty signs and wonders in your name? Many will say this on that day. But I will say unto them, depart from me, you who rejected the commandments of God, you who forsook the law of Moses, you who rejected the will of my Father. You only wanted power. You only wanted signs and wonders. You only wanted to be able to prophesy. You just wanted to cast out demons. Why? Looking for your own reputation? Looking to build your own ministry? Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. How do you argue with that? How do you argue with that? Why would you want to argue with that? No man is ever going to stand before the living God on the day of judgment and be able to hold up grace. There is no throne of grace. That's an illusion. It does not exist. There's no such thing as a throne of grace. Sheesh, people. Oh my God, all these fantastic things that Christians like to talk about, none of which were ever spoken of by the living God or his Son. Sheesh. So anyway. America, under Pauline Christianity, we've seen no, nada, zip, zilch, no restoration. No restoration of all things spoken through the mouth of his holy prophets. All right? You cannot find that in America today, can you? America is not in a place of restoration. Christianity is not in a place of restoration. Christianity is residing in a place of desolation. Your souls are desolated. They are desolated. This is what happens when you reject the covenant of God. Your soul is in chaos. Chaos. It's unformed. The entire nation, people, is becoming a desolation. Our whole country, our beautiful country, is becoming a desolation. You take a look at what happens when you get tens of millions of people who declare out of their mouth, who release this spirit out of their mouths, out of their heart, out of their spirit, that the law is no more. All right, fine, the law is no more. Take a look at your country. Gee, it looks like the spirit realm obeyed your words, doesn't it? Because we don't have any law anymore in America. Gee, Christian, do you think maybe the stupidity that you allowed to come out of your mouth may have something to do with the desolation that we're seeing? It says in Leviticus that desolation comes for one reason. You rejected the law. You put away the law. My people perish for lack of knowledge. America is perishing under the spiritual authority of Christianity. This nation is perishing because you Christians have put away not just the law of God, but out of your mouth you put away all law. But it's basically what you walk in anyway. Because you guys preach that all things are lawful. Fine, take a look at America. How do you like all things are lawful? Take a look at D.C., New York, L.A., Sacramento, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland. How do you like not having any law? These manifestations came, people, because Christianity abandoned the covenant of God, which is the Ten Commandments. They abandoned it long ago. Not just in the past couple of years, long ago. Oh, geez. The day you Christians agreed with Satan, you agreed with Satan that it was all right to render null and void the fourth commandment. You did exactly the same damn thing that the Jews did, but you think, oh, gee, we're under grace. It's okay for us to render null and void the commandment of God for the sake of Paul, for the sake of Rome. You guys abandoned the Sabbath. You abandoned the fourth commandment. You abandoned God himself. And you wonder why your nation lies in the grips of a desolating power that it seems nobody can break it. In the day you people come out of Babylon, which is, you're no longer under the authority of God, but grace. Grace is a spirit of rebellion, and until you recognize it, you are caught fast in the grip of it, and you'll never escape until you recognize that grace demands you rebel against the word and the authority of the living God. Grace demands this. Again, not everybody who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will. You know, I'll tell you, you can do a search, a Google search or a YouTube search or whatever on the will of God, and most Christians are oblivious to it. Oh, gee, let's just fast and pray and see if God will reveal his will to us. Well, he did thousands of years ago. Obey my voice and keep my commandments. This is the will of God. And for all of you Christians out there who think that, well, we're Gentiles, we don't need to do what God said. Well, you got to go back and read what God had to say to the Gentiles, if you will, but honor my Sabbaths. The Gentiles are commanded to keep the commandments and honor his Sabbaths. Oh, gee, never read that, did you? How could you? You go to church and the only thing you hear is Romans and Galatians. The only thing you guys ever hear is abominations and rebellion against God. and every manner of excuse under the sun that you think you're going to be able to hold up before him as to why it was not necessary for you to obey his voice and keep his commandments. Well, you think you're going to offer up grace as an excuse for why you lived your entire life in rebellion? I mean, I want you to go back and read Exodus and see how well it worked out for those who rebelled against the commandments of God. All those that came out of Egypt, every single solitary one of them died, perished in the wilderness, with the exception of Joshua and Caleb. Man, that ought to scare the living hell out of most of you Christians, because when Yahshua says, few there be that find it, well, if you want to find an example of few there be, you better look at Joshua and Caleb. And get an understanding that everybody else as an adult who came out of Egypt perished under the wrath of God. Get out of my sight, Moses. Stand aside, Moses. I'm going to destroy this people. Man, that was at the get-go. That was at the get-go. That was Moses on Mount Sinai. That's how badly they pissed off the living God, because they rebelled and rejected his commandments. You think it's going to go any better for you? The mercy of God is overwhelming to those who will love him and keep his commandments. But to those, and God himself says, these are they who hate me. They who will not keep my commandments are the ones who hate me. You better dang well do a heart check and find out what is your true heart towards his commandments, because God is the word. God is the commandment. The way you treat that commandment is exactly the same way you treat him. And most of you despise his commandments. And you wonder why. Great tribulation. Horrible, terrible, terrible, terrible tribulation. But you chose it, didn't you? You cried out for great tribulation. You cried out for it. You thought you were going to survive it. In the spirit of rebellion, you're going to perish. You will perish unless you return to God and his commandments. What do you think it means? What do you think it means, people, to have your robes washed in the blood of the Lamb? What do you think that means? It means you keep his commandments. That's what that means. All they who come out of great tribulation at this time are the ones who repent. They return to God. They return to his commandments. They do his word. These are the ones that come out. These are the ones who washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. They return to God and his commandments, and he received them. Oh, how he received them. For those of you who are so proud, so stubborn, so dead in your hearts that you can no longer hear his word. His word has no effect upon your heart. His word has no place in your heart because you won't do it. These shall perish. Period. Doesn't mean you can't repent. Doesn't mean you can't return to him. This is to those who refuse. They refuse. The word comes to them. The word of truth comes to these people, and they reject it. They get all swollen up in pride and grace and Pauline Christianity. Oh, anybody who thinks that you need to keep the commandments is in great deception. And that's where you guys are. You think if you walk with God, you Christians think if you keep the law of God and walk in his commandments, that those of us who do these things are in great deception, that we're the great falling away, you freaking idiots. That you would count anybody who follows strictly Yahshua as being deceived. That is how far you have fallen. That is how far. Oh, God, you guys. Oh, jeez. I'll talk to you in a bit.